What is up, everyone? Welcome to L2R2 PlayStation Podcast. My name's Fonzie. I'm joined by my co-host, Callum Monroe from across the pond. Callum, it's been, like I said, 25 years. We made it. We survived. How you been?
Yeah, I've been good. Yeah, I mean, like you said sort of before, there's been no changes or anything, same old. Except now I have internet, which is very very nice. So yeah, just back in the land of the present day. And yeah, looking forward to getting back into talking about games and understanding what's going on. So I've been out of the loop a little bit, but yeah, really really excited. It's a good sort of time to get back into it with everything that was announced through when was it, yesterday or the day before? I can't
Wednesday,
remember when it was.
Thursday. It was Thursday. Yep,
Thursday.
yep.
Yeah,
Time. What
yeah.
is it?
So
It
it's
blends together.
yeah. So it's yeah, it's a good time to do it as well. So yeah, like I said, so I didn't watch it, so I'm just looking through the thing you sent me. There's some things I didn't even know were talked about. So yeah, very excited to have a look.
Yeah, really. For the past, 7 years or whatever since we've met, like there hasn't been a lot of PlayStation stuff. There's been little tidbits of news here and there, not a lot of big drops as far as games go. So it's actually dope. Now we have this showcase which we've been waiting for some kind of announcement for what's coming up for PlayStation, and we have it now. They set up the next year and the year after that, and with some of these games. So it's awesome. Finally got some news, something to chew on. But you mentioned before the show not playing a lot really well with your internet, and that's also the double side with having the digital consoles. It's like if your internet isn't there, you can't play shit.
Yeah, yeah. It's and yeah, it's almost like it has a psychological effect. It's just I think I said before the show, it's it just when you see bad internet, when you're trying to do something that uses internet and it's not working properly, it's just so frustrating. I just didn't even want to subject myself to that. So yeah, I haven't been playing games much, but I do quite like it when you sort of have these like hiatuses away, because it's sort of it's like a when you sort of get back into playing games, it's almost like you enjoy them more. Or have like it's like a fresh start. So I've already got like a big list of games that I want to sort of get into and start playing. But so it's sort of I've like created like a secondary backlog for myself, which is always good.
Nice. Yeah, with you not having internet, like I've been in the same boat for moments of time, like say with when the power goes out for a second, or something has a reset in the router. And me and my wife just kind of walk around like, what do we do? Like we're holding candles like it's the 1820s, and we're just like, I don't know, I guess we just go farm or something. What is life now? But yeah, so I can't imagine like months without internet. It sounds like a miserable time. But I guess yeah, you can
Yeah,
go
yeah.
out and experience stuff, like that's what you should do as a normal person. But I'd rather stay at home and live life through the internet.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very lucky to be in sort of in Brighton that time because there is a lot to do. I mean, if I was back sort of home, where I used to live, I'd be a lot more bored, I think, because there's not as much to do around there. But yeah, and I mean, I've been reading a lot. I've been rereading through Lord of the Rings, sort of going through like my sort of annual like Tolkien sort of thing. So I'm trying to like prepare for the Amazon series as well. So I sort of bought lots of different Tolkien books, trying to get through those. But now I've got internet again. I don't know
So forget all
whether I'll
that.
sort of continue. Yeah, I'll move on to the next thing now.
Yeah, that's dope. I've been seeing online you've been posting about getting back into Lord of the Rings and reading the books, and me and my wife at the same time have been rewatching some of the original movies, and I guess nobody forgets, but it's like you forget how dope they are, especially the last one.
Yeah,
And I got deep into. I didn't read anything, but I started watching YouTube breakdowns of like some of the characters, and especially Sauron. I'm such a nerd for Sauron, and I want to see more of him. And so I'm hoping the Amazon series. It takes place quite a while in the past, so I'm hoping maybe he's around and they show him actually wrecking stuff and using that ring. In the first movie, they cut off his finger in the first like 5 minutes, and it's like you never see his full
yeah,
power.
yeah. I mean, I did. There's something about Lord of the Rings where it's just so like just perfect to me. Like I just love everything. But I mean, I watch those movies probably at least like each of them like once a month probably. I just they're like comfort food for me. I could just watch them over and over and over again. And the weird thing is when I read the books, it makes me want to watch the films. So
Yep.
yeah, it's a double-edged sword there. But yeah, I mean, I always sort of I'm always like watching the films. I just yeah, I mean, I've had the books for a while and I haven't read them since I was sort of much younger, so I wanted to read through them again. And I think yeah, I thought with the Amazon series, it's a good time to start. going through it all. But I think like you said, using YouTube's probably not a bad way to do it as well, because it is very complicated and quite old English in some of it. And I mean, some of the books are even in like complete note form.
Oh.
So there's a lot to consume. But yeah, I think now we have like the internet where we can Google things or look things up. I think it should make some of the books like the Silmarillion a bit more digestible.
Yeah, and I can't wait for the Amazon show too. Like, I don't know how long this series is set for. I know they're throwing a ton of money at it, but like that's the proper way I think to dive into this stuff is spend as much time as you can. Those movies were dope because they spread it across three movies, but
Mm-hmm.
there's stuff they even left out. Like there's that big spider at the very end, I think Return of the King that almost takes Frodo, but like there's way more about that spider. It's a super old spider and there's all these really mythic creatures that kind of survive for a long time. That's one of them. There's just a lot of cool stuff that they just don't have time to go into it. So hopefully, yeah, that show can, because there's so much nerdy stuff to dive into, so many books.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that like second age is where things are a bit more mystical. I think that in Lord of the Rings, obviously, where it's like the Age of Man, where it's a bit more relatable, I suppose. And I think that's why the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit, the books especially, are a lot easier to read than maybe some of the other Tolkien stuff, just because when you sort of try reading the Silmarillion, where it starts talking about like the creation of Middle Earth and stuff, it's just so difficult to understand, and like it's such like an impenetrable book. But so it'll be really really cool to see how the Amazon series like tackle all these like really difficult sort of crazy concepts and everything. Yeah, I'm really really excited for it.
And also, real quick with the Shire, did they have any idea what's going on with like the Frodo's quest with the ring, or like the war never gets to their front? Like, do they ever think it's real, or give a shit about it?
Yeah, well, there's actually a chapter in Return. So I'm nearly finished Two Towers at the moment. So, I know there's a chapter in Return of the King. I think it's called like the sacking of the Shire or something, where they do actually get to the Shire, like the orcs, and they
Oh,
like there's actually a scene in I think Fellowship of the Ring where Frodo looks into Galadriel's mirror in the movie, and he sees the Shire getting sacked and everything, which obviously doesn't actually happen in the movie. But I think when he looks into that sort of mirror, it's like a reference to what happened in the book. But so yeah, I
oh,
think that. But I think like obviously when they're bringing out a film and they want to try and reach like bigger audiences, it's probably not the nicest thing to put into the film. I think it would have given like Return of the King such a different tone if the Shire got sacked, because it's such like a homely, comfortable place. So to see it sort of in under duress is probably not the best thing for trying to like entice little kids to, or young people to watch the movie.
that's true with the Shire. They just drink all day and shoot off fireworks or whatever and eat.
Yeah.
And I don't think they own, a gun or something or a weapon at all. It's like they can't defend themselves. So yeah, the idea of them getting sacked is nuts.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure how that goes in the book, but I know that it's a thing that happens. But yeah, I'm quite glad I never got to see it sort of on the big screen, because yeah, it
Yeah,
would have been pretty horrible to see that like paradise affected.
right. It would have been not good. All right,
Yeah.
Cam. Well, enough Lord of the Rings. We could jump into some PlayStation again. We have the showcase. I have some breakdowns of the stuff, kind of in random order, but maybe some of the big stuff first here. But let's jump into it. So we got God of War Ragnarok. We finally got not only just like a CG trailer, something like full blown gameplay trailer. Have some of the details, and we'll watch this trailer here. So we got from IGN. God of War Ragnarok takes place a few years after 2018's God of War, and the trailer shows that there's still some strife between Kratos and Atreus. Atreus wants to explore what it means to actually be Loki and have giant heritage. No official date yet, but still 2022. So I'm going to play this trailer here as B-roll. How'd you feel about this footage, watching the trailer, and finally seeing gameplay?
I watched it. I think the morning after the experience was on, and yeah, I thought it looks incredible. I wasn't really sure what to expect, but yeah, it looks like it's a lot more, even more open, and it's going to be sort of introducing a lot more of these like mythological characters, and I mean, yeah, it looks just brilliant.
Yeah, it's nuts. Maybe a bit more of the same kind of experience with the 2018's God of War, but I don't mind at all. Like it still looks beautiful. I just want more of that, gameplay. I know they have said that they're going to That's another game. There was a like a revamp of some of the gameplay. But so I do have this breakdown from Shinobi 602 on Twitter. So this comes from IGN as well. Much more player expressiveness in Kratos' gear, evolved gameplay like whittling down enemies through Atreus and Kratos, setups with Atreus, etc. Deeper combat, more verticality. Fumble Winter affects Nine Realms differently. That part about Atreus and Kratos, I think that could be really cool, revamping the gameplay if certain enemies you need to use Kratos and Atreus and kind of alternate accordingly. That might have been in 2018 a bit already, but for them to go deeper into that too would be really awesome.
Yeah, definitely. I think the combat in the first game was obviously one of the shining elements of it. And I do remember, I mean, it's been a while since I've played it, but I do remember that Atreus was a really helpful, but really like simple sort of additional mechanic to the combat. So as long as they can sort of build on that and still keep it so it's not too intrusive or sort of gets in your way at all, then yeah, I think more of the same is perfect. And I think, you know, and there's been a lot of talk about how it looks the same as the first game. I think it looks, you know, obviously much better in a lot of ways, but yeah, it does look similar as well. And I think that just is testament to the groundwork they put in for the first game. I think the more games that can get it so right the first time round means that when they then bring out the second one, they can reuse a lot of stuff and, you know, get these games out the door quicker. So I think it's actually the more things you see that are reminiscent of the first game is just testament to how well, you know, they made these decisions the first time around.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I did see, referencing some of that criticism I saw this morning on Twitter, someone was commenting on how the animation to get into the boat from the trailer is the same pretty much exactly on the 2018. But it's like, well, what do you want? Do you want this game to come out? Okay, we're going to reuse some of the animations that don't matter. You know,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
hardware, the bones are there. It's like they're going to build upon it. It's like
yeah.
they're burned either way. It's like either they revamp everything and this game comes out 5 years later or from now, or they kind of build upon the stuff now, which is dope, and the engine's solid. So it's like there's stuff that they can just cross over. They don't have to, you know,
Yeah.
change from the ground up.
Yeah, and you know there's things that of course will be changed and will be enhanced upon, and you know there was a couple of small things I think with the first game that could have been done better, like the fast travel system, and the I remember some of the sort of menu stuff was a bit tricky as well. So you know that there's improvements I'm sure that we're not going to get from just that trailer as well, but even from the trailer you can see that this world looks a lot more vibrant, a lot more lived in. I mean, there's the scene where he's rowing through this sort of like little sort of frontier looking town, and there's lots of NPCs walking around, and that's not really something we got necessarily in the first game. So it'll be interesting to have,
True.
you know, a really lived in world as well. So yeah, I'm really excited.
Yeah, and the way they introduce or start the trailer, having Atreus being the one bringing that deer, whatever that
Mm,
stag that he kills, and the whole reveal trailer for the original God of War 2018, it's them going out to hunt. I love the way they're starting to change the dynamic. And Atreus is older now; he sounds different. You know, he's going through puberty or whatever. I love how they're going to play with that. They're going to be even more butting heads as they did like towards the end of the last one. So I can't wait for the story. There's also there's the Atreyu guy. No, that's Atreus. There's the actual God of War in the Norse mythology. Man, I'm blanking on his name. I've been reading a bunch about him, but they introduce him in the trailer. So I love that they're gonna interact somehow. And there's also been little tidbits of some of the character art they've revealed, like the high def character art. They show that Norse God of War has various Egyptian writing tattoos on him. So it's like, what are
mm.
they trying to do there? Is that a hint for where they go from here? But yeah, lots of little bits to pick apart in the trailer.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's one thing that's easy to forget about with God of War is because it had such great, you know, combat and sort of fluidity to it. It is hard to forget, or easy to forget, that the story is also one of the most solid things about it. So, yeah, I mean, they've introduced so many new characters and shown them in this trailer. And yeah, like you're saying about Tyr, the Norse
Tyr.
God of War, and it looks like there's going to be some really interesting relationships and dynamics and things. So yeah, I'm just so it's really hard to know what to expect. I think just because the game does look really big and like sprawling, but yeah, really excited and yeah, I'm even more excited knowing that they have not tried to change what already works well, because it means that they could spend more time on like the little things that you sort of notice, and yeah, just like making that world more vibrant as well.
Yeah, I know Corey Barlog mentioned after 2018's release that there was stuff they had to cut because they had to kind of make sure it was ready to go. And so now that they have the bones to work on in the engine, like they can expand and add stuff that they didn't have time for and flesh out different mechanics. They did mention right after, because they capped off the showcase with this trailer. They had an interview with Corey Barlog and the new director. So Corey Barlog is not directing. Instead, series veteran Eric Williams will direct the new game. Williams joined Sony Santa Monica in 2004 and has worked on every God of War game as a designer, specifically focused on combat. So Corey is rumored to be working on a brand new IP from Sony Santa Monica. Do you have any issues at all with him not being the main director for this time?
No, I don't think so. I think the first game was such a collaborative accomplishment. It worked in so many different areas, whether that was story or gameplay or anything. So yeah, so I don't think putting somebody else in the director role will have any negative effects. In fact, it's probably quite nice to have like fresh eyes on the project, and it says that he's already like a veteran of the series, so I'm sure he understands, and everyone working on it understands the sort of vision, because the game's not gonna come together as well as it did the first game if it's not a shared vision that everybody understands. So yeah, I don't think that there'll be any problems in it, and it's important for someone like Corey Barlog to go off and create something new, because you see Insomniac bringing out all these different games, and so it's nice to hear that there'll be multiple projects coming out of this studio, because they're such a great studio. You want to see games come out of places like that. So yeah, I think it's just nothing but a good thing, really.
Yeah, no, exactly. They did announce that this also caps off the Norse mythology side of God of War. So rather than going for like a traditional three game set, they're just ending it here. So I wonder, how do they end this? Where do they take it from here on? I know that Tyr guy has Egyptian tattoos, and I remember in 2018's God of War, it's been a while since I played it, but there's a scene where you go into some kind of room and there's various trophies or like treasures, and there's some Egyptian stuff there. And I wonder with his tattoos, if they're going to lean hard into that. Maybe that deal was scrapped years ago and they're trying to do it again. If they do go that route, do you have any kind of idea of where you think you'd like to see the next mythology that God of War takes over?
I don't know, really. I mean, I think with something like God of War or any game series, I always worry about sort of thinking ahead, that I don't want them to ruin the series. I'm not saying that they are or that they will, but it's just always like when you think about, oh, what would they do next? What could they do next? It's just, to me, it might just sound really pessimistic, but it's like an opportunity to ruin the game. So I don't know, but I have confidence that they'll do it justice whatever they choose to. I think for me is I think Kratos is such an important part of the games. So I know there's been a lot of people saying about how Atreus may become the new protagonist or whatever, but and I think for me, as long as they don't do that, I just think Kratos is such a vital part of the sort of essence of these games. So as long as he's still in it, then I'm happy, I think.
Yeah, it's tough where they really nailed this new take on Kratos. So it'd be a huge bummer to kind of end it if they
Mm.
do switch gears with Atreus taking over. They'd have to spend more time building up Atreus, kind of creating that as a character that everyone really cares about, and
Yeah.
seeing that that struggle or some kind of story, this change that he goes through. I think they need a bit more time, but maybe that is the direction they'll have to go to. I don't know.
Mm.
But it is exciting to kind of imagine what's going on. But we still have this game that's coming out, so it'll be enough to satisfy our needs. But yeah,
Yes.
2022 is still the year window of time. Are you a little weirded out by no actual date?
Um, Not particularly. I think around this time, especially as people are starting to like return to studios, and every studio is going to have that problem of how are they going to work going forwards and things like that. So I think it's important to just not put a time on these releases at the moment, just because everything is so up in the air just all the time, and you never know what kind of COVID related hurdles that there could be. So yeah, I think it's a good shout to just not mention it, because they might mention a date and then have to push it back by like a month or two, and just by announcing that something's delayed, even if it's a really short term one, it just creates all the crap we see online. So yeah, I think it's a good move.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you nailed it. Where it's this time, this age, where it's like you have to be careful when you try to announce something. I think the 2021 when they initially said that was way too soon. I mean, like we were thinking as they were announcing that, it's like, what are you guys doing? Just take your time. I don't know who higher up decided like, oh yeah, we'll nail it. It's like we were
Yeah,
still already in COVID at that time. It's like we are now, but it's like
yeah,
it was hot then, and as it is
mm,
now, and so it's like I never thought that they were going to nail that time. So give it a window of time of a year. That's cool. They can take their time with it. I do imagine it will hit this year, maybe summertime or later this year. But they show off quite a bit, a lot of different realms, a lot of the gameplay. It's like I feel like this is pretty close to being done. I do feel confident about 2022.
yeah, yeah. I think judging by the trailer, it looks super polished, and I think the fact that we got the trailer and not like a vertical slice shows that they haven't been. I mean, I don't know whether there is a vertical slice due to come out, but I think it shows that they're not trying to polish something to show. I mean, obviously the
Right.
trailer will have an element of that, but I think I think when you get a big trailer like that, there hasn't seemed. It seems like they've been able to put all their time and focus just into the game as a whole, rather than a vertical slice to show off at something like E3. So and yeah, I think the game looks. I mean, obviously they always look polished and playable from these trailers, but I think judging by how sprawling everything looks already, it looks like they've put in the majority of the hard work and as we mentioned before, it looks like they've they did so well in creating really robust systems and gameplay sort of within the engine they're using that they've been able to not cut corners but focus their efforts elsewhere because the first God of War game was so like nearly flawless in how it played and how everything sort of worked. So it's just again testament to them getting it so right the first time that's allowed them to build on it in ways that some sequels don't get the opportunity to do.
Yeah, exactly. Man, I'm super stoked for this game. I love that they're setting up these next few years for PlayStation, and there's a couple other trailers that they do a good job of doing that. But this one is a juggernaut, and I know everyone's super excited for it. And yeah, I know it's already um, getting millions and millions of views online. I want to say it was somebody I follow on Twitter had kind of put into context, and it's the highest viewed trailer for sure from that showcase. So I think everyone's excited, cannot wait, and it gives us time to try and find a PS5. Even though it's PS4 as well, but it gives people enough time to try and get a PS5 in the first place to play it on there. But we
Yeah.
can switch over, Calum, to the next one here. Equally just as big, we got Marvel Spider-Man 2 announced with a tease of Venom. This little breakdown is from IGN as well. Insomniac Games revealed that Marvel Spider-Man 2 will be arriving on PS5 in 2023, and its first gameplay trailer revealed that both Peter Parker and Miles Morales will be facing off against Venom. The PlayStation blog mentioned Spider-Man 2 will launch exclusively on PS5. Will still be a single-player focused experience. I know they showed the two Spideys. I'm wondering, is it co-op, something like that? Still single player. But it's a short trailer. How'd you feel about seeing this, and then the intro of Venom at the very end too?
Yeah, I think it was a decent trailer. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, but it's there's only so much you can really show in like a reveal trailer like this for something like Spider-Man. Um, and it was at 2023 the release date, so it's not necessarily that as close as I thought it might have been. But it actually, I'm glad it's not because as much as I liked Miles Morales, I thought that it was still flawed in a lot of ways. The first game was, so I'm hoping that they're really taking their time and they'll actually, I suppose, opposite to God of War, they'll actually make some good changes to what is a great game, but could do with a lot of updates to its gameplay and specifically to its combat. I think could be better. But so yeah, I think it's great. I think Venom's obviously an awesome villain. The story in both the first Spider-Man and Miles Morales has by far for me been the best thing about it, which I think surprised a lot of people with how good they were. So I'm really excited for that aspect of it. I just hope that this release date means that they're going to really refine it and make it a better experience.
Yeah, and it's one of the first ones that at least from first party, they're saying it's only on PS5. So we're now into the getting into the transition of we're moving
Mm.
into fully next gen. I'm very excited about that to see them work on behind the scenes on the engine, revamp stuff like you said for for PS5 with everything unlocked, everything they can do. Super excited for that. And yeah, now we're transitioning into that where it's like we're getting PS5 legit games.
Yeah, I think now that we are having games announced that are coming out, in years like 2023 or 24, I think we will start to see less PS4 sort of mentions on games like that, because there's got to be a point in the next sort of 2 or 3 years where the PS4 does really have to be left behind, and
Yeah,
hopefully by that time though you can go out and actually buy these things.
right.
But time will tell.
How do you think they're gonna navigate the two Spideys together? Do you think you will be alternating, like in one fight sequence, you can maybe switch between Spideys, or it's one at a time? Like, how do you think they're gonna deal with two Spideys?
Yeah, I really don't know. I think that you'll probably play as Peter Parker only, and then Miles Morales. I mean, there might be a few missions where you play as Miles Morales, but I mean, you've got to imagine that they'll focus on one character just for like progression reasons, so that both games had already had these sort of RPG-esque upgrade systems, leveling up systems, all these things. So I think if you split that between two characters, it might get a little bit overbearing, or just less concentrated, or whatever the word is. Because you want that your progression systems in these games to be sort of really enticing, and you want to really get into them. And I think it's much harder to do that if it's spread across two characters. But yeah, I imagine you'll probably play as Peter Parker Spider-Man, especially if it's Venom that's involved. But yeah, I mean, in first game you had these sort of missions where you might play as Mary Jane or Miles Morales. So I imagine that there might be some aspect of that as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think you nailed it where they, with the RPG elements, they do have to kind of focus it on one character. Maybe they do have a way of balancing it where you're managing both Spideys, but it seems like, yeah, they'd focus on Spider-Man. Do you think then if they do focus on the standard or original Spider-Man, then they go with this back and forth? The next release is focused on Miles, and they have their times where they link up, but they also kind of split them into two different releases.
Yeah, I think it'll all depend on the story. I think we've seen how much the story impacts these games, which again I think was a big surprise to everybody. So I think maybe you never know, you might have an arc where Peter Parker dies, or something like that, and then Miles Morales can move in. But yeah, I think it'll definitely be sort of on the cards. Some sort of revisit to Miles Morales, because the Miles Morales game was the story was great, and I think everybody wants to see more of him and sort of the characters that were involved in sort of his story.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, and it's we're still early on 2023, so we got a lot of time to wait for this, but cannot wait. I love that they came out of the gate with this thing. Do you think it was maybe too early to show? Although I think the showcase was really focused on the future of PlayStation. Do you have any issues with them showing this off now?
Not at all. I think it's worth showing it, and at least like getting the hype sort of for Venom, because I know a lot of people love that character. And
Yep.
yeah, I think people have been expecting it, because Miles Morales definitely felt like that stepping stone between sort of the two. So yeah, I think it's a good shout to show it off, just so people know it's coming out, and people can start speculating about it as well. So yeah, it's good that they showed it off, and now it's just we'll just get more and more details now that it's actually out there, and sort of a secret.
Yep. Now, Insomniac also gave us a double whammy, so they showed off out of nowhere. I did not expect this. So, Marvel's Wolverine announced for PS5, developed by Insomniac Games, also from IGN here. Spider-Man and Ratchet Clank developer Insomniac Games announced it is working on Marvel's Wolverine for PS5. This new game is being created by Marvel Spider-Man, Miles Morales, Brian Horton, and Cameron Christian. And Insomniac's goal is to not only respect the DNA of what makes the character so popular, but also look for opportunities to make it fresh and truly reflect the Insomniac spirit. How do you feel about this? When I watched the reveal, I was, they show the guy in a bar, he's beat everyone up. Okay, cool. And then the spikes come out, and I'm like, let's go.
Yeah, it's really cool. I do really like Wolverine, and there's already been some pretty good Wolverine games, or maybe game. I remember there was one maybe on PS3 that I thought was quite good. But I think it's a good match. I think Insomniac are very sort of funny and very tonal in sort of their games, and I think that fits Wolverine really well. He's a very dry funny character. Um, but I think it will be interesting to see how Insomniac approach like the brutality of it, because even like Resistance wasn't necessarily that gruesome or gory to the levels that Wolverine should be. So it'll be interesting to see how Insomniac tackle that. But I'm sure that they'll do it with ease. I mean, there's no reason why they can't, just because their recent games haven't had that side to it. So yeah, it'll be really interesting to see more of it. I don't. Did they announce a window or anything? I imagine it's quite far out.
I don't believe they did, but I would assume 2024 to 2025 at the least. They're now split off into two teams, and yeah, we just saw the CG trailer. So I imagine it's far off, but they have not confirmed.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's it's nuts. How do you think they deal with, because it's Wolverine? He's got the swords for hands, basically. How are they going to handle combat and keep it teen rated, or do they go mature with this? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's what's going to be interesting is how they sort of approach the violent sort of aspect of it. But yeah, it is going to be really. I mean, I think if you have to look at Resistance, because that's probably the thing that's as close in that regard, in terms of maturity that they've done before. And I don't know. I think I just hope that whatever they do impacts the game positively. I'm not necessarily bothered if they try and cut it down so that more it's sort of available for more people. But it'd be nice to have a good sort of violent Wolverine game as well.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be violent, but it's like he's got swords on his hands. I don't know how is he going to cut their clothes off or like give them
Yeah,
haircuts, And they show him fighting humans. I know in past games like he's fighting robots all day, so it's fine. You can chop them up.
yeah,
So I don't know how they do it. Someone online did post, just hoping that like, is this going to be Days Gone with swords or like with claws? Because there's been plenty of imagery with Wolverine on his bike in movies and in comics. So it's like maybe an open world side of this where he's traveling that way. But yeah, the combat, I don't know how they're going to manage that, but I know that they can nail it, and I'm sure they wouldn't have tackled this if they didn't have an idea in mind with how to handle the combat.
yeah. And I think it'll also be interesting to see Wolverine himself, sort of in the game, and who's going to sort of voice him and everything. Because I think everyone sort of just thinks of Wolverine as Hugh Jackman. So
Right.
I just hope that I think they did a really good job with Spider-Man and avoiding that whole like uncanny valley thing, which I don't think they did too well with like the Avengers game. So I just yeah, I'm really intrigued to see how they've tackled this character and sort of put their own stamp on him as well. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they approach the visual side of fighting humans with these big claws. And yeah, it's there's going to be a lot to sort of keep an eye on with this, I think.
Yeah, can't wait. And it's really a testament to Insomniac. They're just holding the Marvel video game properties on their shoulder, like just like Thanos grabbing the Infinity Gauntlet, saying like, "Fine, I'll do it." It's like they're taking it over and nailing it. I guess they just have Spider-Man under their belt, but it's just such an awesome series that they've done. I know they're going to kill it with Wolverine, and so just keep giving them properties, whatever they want to do, whatever the idea they have to pitch, like just give it to them.
Yeah, yeah, I think they're a pretty safe studio to rely on. I don't think they've released anything sort of subpar. So yeah, it's a pretty it's a no brainer. I'm sure it's going to be great.
And I wonder, I keep thinking of Naughty Dog with Last of Us and going from Uncharted to Last of Us. Uncharted was a very, it was team rated, but it was like friendly. Everyone could play it. It was like a pulp style action game, even though there's a lot of shooting, you kill tons of people. They balanced that well with switching over to Last of Us, where it was really gritty and adult and hardcore. And so maybe they can do that same thing where they flip flop between a serious adult title and something that's more approachable for everyone else with Wolverine. Although it is Marvel and they're kind of sensitive with letting these characters just like go super gory. So I don't know, but I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. I'm intrigued to see more, but I'm positive it'll be great.
Right. Yeah, I don't have to see this until it's ready to go. It's like I trust them completely.
Yeah.
All right, Kyle, move on to the next one here. We got, I believe you're more of a fan of KOTOR, so we got Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake announced for PS5. This breakdown is also from IGN. Lucasfilm and Aspire are bringing a remake of the classic game that first arrived on Xbox in 2003 to PS5. where it will launch as a console exclusive. This new remake is being developed by not only industry veterans, but also some of the original team members of the Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Most of the original voice cast will return. They started off, this was one of the first big reveals, maybe the first reveal of the show. How do you feel about this?
Yeah, it's really really exciting. It's one of the biggest probably RPG names in all of games. It's been asked for and asked for and asked for years. I think the original is still playable. I think because those kind of RPGs age very well, even if they look a bit old or whatever. I think they're so reliant on systems and all the RPG elements that you can play without a video game. So they're still playable today, but it'll be really really cool to get a new polished and good looking take on it. And I think again this is a difficult one to get wrong, I guess, just because of the building blocks they have. And I think it's really exciting for, I don't know how you pronounce it, is it Aspire or
I want to
Aspire?
say so, yeah.
Yeah, it's exciting for them because that they've ported Knights of the Old Republic and a few Bioware RPGs, and so it's nice for them to get this huge opportunity. It's going to really put them on the map. So yeah, really really excited to see how this develops.
Yeah, no, people love this series. I never really caught on to it, but it was great for them to start off the show with this. All the nerds getting crazy and loving it. So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
excited for them. But I don't think we got a date on this thing here. But could you?
Uh,
We just saw CG. So could you imagine when do you think this thing will come out?
Really, I mean, it all depends. Is that we don't even know how sort of far along it is or anything like that. So hopefully, it's not massively far away. Again, if it's a remake as well, you'd hope that they'll have enough to go on that they won't reach necessarily creative like walls or anything because they've got so much to work with. Um, but yeah, I imagine it's probably quite far out. Just judging from the fact it was like a proper just CG trailer and it was like a proper teaser, really. But you never know. I mean, there's been lots of times where games are announced with like a proper CG teaser and then come out, like a year later. So I think we saw it with Resident Evil 2 remake and all these other games like that. So hopefully it's soon, but I think yeah, they need to take their time with it, obviously, and treat it with the respect it deserves. And yeah, it'll be, and I'm sure it's going to be a huge undertaking for the studio as well. So I'm sure that they sort of need some time to bed in and get it going. So, but yeah, really really exciting. I think it's really important for Star Wars as like a property as well, because this is like probably one of the most adored sides of just Star Wars as a whole. The whole Darth Raven sort of story and the Old Republic games. So it could be a huge chance for Star Wars to get people back on its side. So I know it's been a bit of a rocky road the past few years. So yeah, I think it's just great. It's such a positive, such a buzz for everybody because it's similar to like the Resistance remake. It's been called for so long, and now it's finally actually happening.
Yeah, and I think you're right with Star Wars, where they're finding more success getting away from or the actual storyline or that mainline storyline. Say with Mandalorian, you have Kotor people loved when it came out, so it's like just kind of branch off and you'll find more of these, and then you have the freedom to kind of tell the story you want because it is a deep lore with Star Wars. So I agree with kind of mining the other stories that haven't been told, leaning into it, and they're going to have way more success, get more fans onto the Star Wars bandwagon, and just kind of leave that classic storyline alone. It's been done, cool. Tell some new stories for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome, Calvin. We can transition to the next one here. We got Gran Turismo 7 release date revealed. So Gran Turismo 7 will be officially released on both PlayStation 5 and PS4 on March 22nd, 2022. So we got some gameplay and footage of it. Are you excited for this? How do you feel about seeing Gran Turismo and getting that date?
Yeah, I think it's going to be really difficult for Gran Turismo, of course, because of how good the new Forza looks. But again, Forza's always sort of been or has been the king for quite a while. But then again, they are very different games. Gran Turismo is more that simulation, like motorsport sort of racing thing. So they definitely both have their respective audiences. And yeah, I'm really excited. I think Gran Turismo is always an interesting one just because you know how much potential there is with this series, but they just always seem to maybe miss the mark very slightly. So yeah, but I'm intrigued to see. I'm sure it's going to look fantastic as they always do. But yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how this next gen battle between Forza and Gran Turismo goes. Um, because I think it is very generational with these kinds of games. I mean, if you look at the PS2 era, Gran Turismo was by far the king of racers, and in PS3 there was a bit of a I suppose there was a bit more competition. There was a lot of series out around the PS3 360 era, but I think Gran Turismo was still, doing really well. I think GT5 was like one of the biggest selling games like ever. Um, and then I think maybe as we got to the PS4 era, that's where Forza really started to shine. So it'll be interesting to see now with the new generation how Gran Turismo can evolve. I think it's been in dire need of refreshment and just becoming a little bit more approachable to people. But I've just got the trailer on now. It's the first time I've actually seen it, and it does look really, really good.
Yeah, that's the thing with this. This series is really synonymous with having the best tech when it comes to the graphics and the detail on all the different systems. You know, the physics. They're always at the best of the best on that front, and it seems like they're still there. But I have more fun with the Forza series, and I know it's a different kind of thing, or at least with the Forza Horizon series, way more arcadey,
Mhm.
approachable. You jump in, drive anywhere. That's their focus. With Gran Turismo, it's way more of a racing sim. They lean hard into that, and so it just never really caught on to me. But it's always the most beautiful game as far as in driving games go. But I
Yeah,
wonder
and
if do they have more success leaning into the sim or going more of that Horizon route?
yeah, I think it's important for Gran Turismo just to. I don't know. I think it's hard because it's a game that has been, adored, especially in like the PS2 days, so that they can do something there. But yeah, it's an interesting one because you don't know whether they do try and like really change the sort of essence of the game and to try and match Forza. I don't know whether that'd be the best idea because it looks like Horizon's really got that, locked down now. It would be foolish for Gran Turismo to try and change everything when all they probably need to do is just really refine what's already there. But I mean, this looks really great. It looks a lot more fun. It looks like it has a bit more to it in terms of like the tracks and the kinds of races because normally it is very just typical motorsport racing with not a lot sort of to it. So yeah, so I think it's best that they just stick to what they're good at, but just really make sure that they refine just the general or the sort of experience of the for the player because I think that's always been the hardest part. Like really really awful long loading screens, really just tacky looking menus and things like that. I think there's a lot that it can learn from Forza in its approachability, but I think it should stay as this racing sim because I think when it fires on all cylinders, it is a really great game.
Yeah, I agree. I think their success is staying with that sim aspect of things. Maybe they try and branch the teams into two, sort of how Forza does it, where they have their more arcadey, then they have the traditional Forza, and they kind of cycle back and forth. That seems like a lot of work at the same time, but maybe you gain more fans doing that. I don't know, but yeah, it's crazy beautiful and coming out, next year, relatively early next year. So this is going to be a big PS5, PS4 game coming up down the line.
Yeah, and it's important to remember that the haptic feedback is going to be massive, massive for this game.
Sure.
I mean, I think racing games are. I think we all know that that's going to be where you really get the most out of the dual sense. So it'll be really interesting to see this game that's going to be so tailored to this console. So I think that will be a big part of it as well.
Yeah, you're right. And if they have introduced the really quick loading times with the PS5, and then also the haptic feedback, could be really dope. Awesome. Can I move on to the next one here? This one I didn't know much about, but it's Tachaya. It's a game inspired by New Caledonia that lets your soul jump into animals. So Tachaya is a game that is not only inspired by New Caledonia, but it is one that lets you soul jump into a physical object or an animal in the world that each offers its own controls and abilities. The main character, Tachaya, will also be able to use a ukulele to influence the world and story. So I've watched the bit here, the trailer. It's very cute looking. I thought maybe this was the next game from the devs who did Concrete Genie, but I guess it's already been something that's been revealed, and I just didn't realize it. But what do you think about this?
Yeah, so it's the first time I've actually sort of seen anything about it, but it looks really cute. I like the idea of hopping into different animals and they've all got their own abilities and sort of different gameplay mechanics. Yeah, it looks cool.
Yeah, same. Excited to try this. Just didn't know much about it. It looks somewhat open world. I love the art style. If you're jumping into different animals with their properties, the way the character is moving around too seem really fluid and fast when you're just kind of picking and choosing who you want to jump into in one kind of stream. Yeah, looks dope.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think there's a few of these kinds of games sort of on the horizon that I think sometimes you just need to like get away from the sort of like mainstream AAA
Yeah.
stuff. It's nice to have these nice, relaxing sort of little adventures.
And that reminds me, really, this entire quarantine, Corona stuff, like the indies have really succeeded and flourished in this time because you don't have a lot of these AAA titles. And so what's filled in the gap, and they've got more attention by having these, indie titles released, and they kind of have more room to expand and to get some attention. And I think they've had an awesome time during this with, just getting more eyes on them and kind of filling in the gap between these huge releases.
Yeah, for sure. I think as games are sort of getting not easier to make, but they're getting a bit more, approachable to make for smaller teams. I think we will see more and more of these quality-looking indie games, which I think's super, super important, obviously, to the industry to have. So it's nice to see something like that.
I agree. So that one, Tachaya, I don't think we got a date on that, but it's coming down the line. So we got Project Eve. I don't know much about it, but we got a new gameplay trailer. It's from Korean studio Shift Up. And the gameplay looks, beautiful. It's maybe just not for me, but what'd you think about this gameplay?
Yeah, so again, haven't actually seen this, so I'm just
Gotcha.
trying to take a look. So it looks kind of
It's got some kind
Bayonetta,
of Devil May
really.
Cry vibes a little bit, or
Yeah,
Bayonetta.
yeah. It's very yeah, it's definitely got like got a kind of vibe to it, hasn't it? That's like kind of like demons, ass shots, and
Yeah.
everything like that. So,
Yep.
but it looks cool. Yeah, it looks. I think people just love these kinds of like wacky hack and slashes. I'm sure it'll probably have like a really cool soundtrack and
Right.
nice cheesy dialogue to go along with it, which everyone loves. But yeah, it looks really cool.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know if I'll play it or maybe there's a sale on it. I see a squid now attacking a space station, which is dope.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks proper wacky, like you mentioned, and kind of a Japanese style. I know it's a Korean studio, so I think this is gonna scratch a niche for a lot of people. So
hmm
yeah, looks really cool.
Yeah, it's actually, and now it's sort of like got into the gameplay. It actually does look really cool. It reminds me a little bit of the Final Fantasy VII remake for some reason. I know it's actually
Mm,
like nothing like it in in any way, but there's just like a certain sort of vibe to it. It's very like Nier Automata as well. But yeah, it looks really cool. Looks like a very interesting setting. You've got like the sci-fi, and then it's back down on sort of a planet. So yeah, this looks really cool.
I see what you mean with the Final Fantasy stuff. The engine seems similar, the way everything looks
Yeah.
and feels. And I'm not sure what they're using, if they're just this is their own proprietary engine or it's just Unreal or something. But yeah, it looks gorgeous for sure.
Yeah.
Nice. So that is coming down the line as well. Got the next one here for Spoken. This is a pretty big one. So we got developed by Luminous Productions, a newly formed Square Enix studio, internal studio formed from devs who worked on Final Fantasy 15 with the goal of creating new AAA level properties. Forspoken is built on the same proprietary engine used for Final Fantasy 15, known as the Luminous Engine. We got a spring 2022 release window. It's written by Gary Whitta, who wrote Rogue One and other video game stuff. Amy Hennig from Uncharted. And so God of War 2018 composer Bear McCreary will be handling Forspoken score too. But did you get a chance to watch this trailer? I know we've seen stuff about this before, but this is a new story trailer.
Yeah, I didn't watch this, but I've seen some of the stuff on Forspoken, and it looks great. I mean, I saw some clips earlier actually on Twitter, sort of showing off like the particle effects, which look just like incredible. It looks, I mean, visually, it looks great. I'm a bit skeptical about the gameplay because it looks like it's tried to take the Final Fantasy 15 combat system, which I really didn't get on with. But hopefully it just looks like it, and it's actually got a lot more to it. Sort of hopefully they've learned from Final Fantasy 15 and sort of made it into something a bit more enjoyable. But I mean, yeah, visually it looks great. It looks like a really cool story. And yeah, I'll definitely be picking this one up, I think.
Yeah, this one looks really dope. The visuals remind me of like an Unreal 5 tech demo or something, like they're on that level. Especially the beginning. I didn't catch the Square Enix name, so I saw the intro with the characters, and the mocap looked like Naughty Dog level. So I was really surprised with that. And then yeah, you get into the gameplay; it's very fast, and I didn't play Final Fantasy 15, so I just go off of some of the movements and the mechanics in the game, and it
Mhm.
looks fun. But yeah, hopefully it's not that same kind of experience that you had with Final Fantasy 15, but it looks really fluid and fast and pretty nuts, and then gorgeous on top of that.
Mhm.
There has been some criticism I've read. I don't feel the same way, but online with like the writing, where it seems too almost comedic with how she's reacting to stuff. But I think they're trying to take this character who has no idea, never been in any kind of like fantasy realm, and they're reacting to it like a normal teenager would, where they're like cursing and stuff and freaking out and excited.
Mhm.
So it doesn't turn me off. I know some people were kind of weird about that.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at the world that it's set in, I don't think some cheesy dialogue from something related to Square Enix is going to be a problem. You have to sort of, I suppose, have some context to like who's making the game. And I mean, it's like if you look at any Final Fantasy game, I mean, you take any of the dialogue scenes out of context and it just looks really cheesy and stupid, but there's a kind of charm to it. It kind of suits the game, so I'm not worried about some cheesy dialogue or cheesy character actions. I think knowing that this is a Square Enix offshoot that worked on Final Fantasy before is sort of to be expected, I think.
Right.
But yeah, I think it looks really great, and that trailer's sold me on it even more. So yeah, I'll be looking forward to giving that a go. I mean, it really like some of the sort of like big shots of the world and how like much is rendered and how good it looks. Like I always like have this weird just fear because I just think God, that must like that actually blow up my PC's graphics card. So I do fear for the heat of my PS5 when I'm trying it. Because I've also noticed like I don't know if you've had it where if you're playing game on your PS5 for a while, like the HDMI cable gets so hot.
Oh,
And I've got like one of the metal sort of back ones, and it gets like boiling hot once I've been playing a game for a while. So looking at those sort of shots does make me worry for the heat of my PS5.
that is true. That is true. Yeah, they're rendering a ton on screen, and it looks dope. Like if they can nail that, and there's no stuttering or issues, that's pretty amazing. But you're right. Is this already pushing the PS5? Pretty to an advanced degree. I know that reminds me of some of the drama recently with the PS5 new iteration, where internally they kind of drew back the heatsink, made it smaller and apparently more efficient. But some YouTubers, some big YouTubers, took it apart and decided just by looking at it that it was now inferior to the regular PS5 because it had a smaller heatsink. Their their understanding was now it's worse than the original PS5. But I want to say it was Digital Foundry, PC Gamer. They've tested them and they're like, yeah, it's the same, cooling capacity, maybe a little bit
Mhm.
better. But
Mm.
that was in the news and people were freaking out about that.
Yeah, I think the size of the heatsink doesn't necessarily mean that the console is going to be cooler. There's so many factors that go into it, like your airflow, how much room there is in there for
Right.
the air to flow, and where it's flowing as well, and the spacing of certain components. So that there's so much that goes into it. I mean, some of like the cheapest coolers you can get for PCs have like the biggest heat sinks, like the big fan coolers. And then the really expensive, really efficient ones are much smaller and tidier. So yeah, I don't think that's a thing, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, that reminds me. I helped my buddy Gavin build a new PC, his first PC in like, I don't know, 8 years. And
Mm,
I'm all about like, I'm just a weirdo where I love the liquid cooling stuff and RGB, and I'm just a fanboy for that. And so he went with this heatsink that's this massive piece of metal. It's like from a car, like a radiator,
yeah, yeah,
and it's just all metal and barely fits in his case. It's like, yeah, this is awesome. It's like that looks so ugly to me, but apparently
yeah.
there's something to those traditional heat sinks and stuff. But
Yeah, they're really. I mean, even the cheap ones, they look really ugly, but they are really good at cooling. I mean, some of them
right,
are even, especially for bang for your buck. I mean, you could get like £100 like AIO water cooler, and it would probably be less effective in some ways. It all depends on how you set up your intake fans with your radiator and stuff as well. There's so much that goes into like the cooling, but at the end of the day, as long as nothing's burning or on fire, then I
Right.
think you're good to go.
Yeah, I agree. Alrighty, Callum. So we got Forspoken coming down the line. Yeah, I'm excited for that one. I actually do want to play that. Now we got this one kind of surprised me. It's really awesome. So we got Uncharted 4, A Thief's End, and Lost Legacy are getting remastered for PS5 and PC. So set to release early 2022. PC version will come after the PS5 release. So this part here, the PS4 or the PC port rather, will not be handled by Bluepoint, who did Nathan Drake Collection on PS4, or the newly acquired Nixxes software, which a couple months ago Sony bought in July to handle porting their titles to PC. Instead, it's being handled by Studio Iron Galaxy, who's ported a bunch of stuff to PC, mainly for Eidos, Square Enix. But yeah, so that's coming to PC. This one I know we knew was coming down the line where once they started porting, it seems like nothing was safe. Everything was getting to PC. And something like Uncharted going to PC means that all bets are off. Like every PlayStation property could potentially go to PC.
Yeah, I think. I mean, it's been rumored for a while now, but I think Uncharted's definitely, whether there's going to be a sequel or not, you're a new entry. But I think it's definitely run its course, as in there's no more benefits it can make PlayStation by being exclusive. It's a series that's been basically replaced by The Last of Us now in terms of what everyone's talking about it coming out from Naughty Dog. So I think it's a good move. It revitalizes it. It gets more people to buy it and play. I mean, I'll definitely be buying it again. I think Uncharted 4 is actually the only Uncharted game that I've only beaten once. So I'm personally really, really excited for this. I'll definitely be getting it on PS5, and I'm sure these games sort of remastered are going to look and perform so well. So it'll be nice to get I imagine it'll be 60 frames and obviously upscaled and everything like that. So, and Lost Legacy as well is one of my favorite Uncharted entries as well. So it's cool that they're including that.
Yeah, Legacy is maybe my favorite one. It's
Mhm.
introducing that open world stuff. You have the new characters that you are the more time with different characters that we didn't have before. And yeah, I think they nailed it with Lost Legacy. So yeah, going to PC is dope to see it fully unlocked with all the different, frame rate options and visual options is going to be nuts. And just playing this on PS5 would be really cool too. But yeah, this just shows that, anything and everything is potentially coming to PC from Sony. And that's awesome. I think they're finally kind of realizing it's like, especially with these properties that have been around for a while, you can gain more success or more fans rather by putting them on PC. They've done that with Uncharted now with not Tsushima but the Kojima game that is super weird. Then I'm blanking on Death Stranding. But yeah, I'm excited for everything to come now to PC.
Yeah, definitely. It's again, it is if it's a series that's been stagnant for so long, then it's worth putting it in more people's hands. Definitely.
Gotcha. Yep. So that was a kind of a quick trailer that showed off the fact it's coming to PC fairly soon, 2022 early release. So we got some news on Alan Wake. So first, Alan Wake Remastered gameplay revealed alongside release date. Alan Wake Remastered was already announced, but now we have our first look at gameplay and an October 5th, 2021 release date. Did you play much of Alan Wake? Are you a big fan?
I did play it on 360, and I didn't actually like it very much. I remember,
Mm,
but I am interested to play it again because I know that it's got quite a big cult following, and but I do remember at the time. It wasn't. I'm sure it was. Quite a few people thought similarly. They weren't too impressed, but I think maybe it's just aged quite well and it's found its audience. So I'm very interested to see it come out again and give it a fair shot.
yeah, I'm very interested in this too. I didn't play Alan Wake, or I know there's a DLC, American Nightmare, that's really highly regarded as one of the best DLCs. Haven't played it. I did love Control, and this is Remedy, and I know they've introduced Alan Wake into Control now with some of the one of the last DLCs. So that makes me want to play this so that I can be up to date on that Control DLC. And people love it, and I do want to give it a shot. Yeah, I'm not sure if maybe just the visuals are upgraded in this remaster, so maybe the same issues with gameplay or mechanics that maybe you experience are going to be there too. I don't know, but I do love Remedy. I got to give this one a shot.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's exciting because it's always nice when a big fan base gets something like this. So it'll be cool to just see it again. And yeah, and I'm definitely interested in giving it another shot. 'Cause there's been so many games that Mass Effect, for example, where I was really down on them and really negative about my experience with them, and then my mind's been completely changed. So hopefully this is another one of those.
Yep, same. So I got the next one here, Tiny Tina's Wonderland. So this is releasing March 25th, 2022. In a departure from Borderlands, players will be able to create their own hero in-game that features a multi-class system, lets you mix and match 6 unique character skill trees, all with their own awesome abilities. There'll also be a ton of customization options from IGN there. Are you big? I believe you're a big Borderlands fan or played the last one a lot. Are you excited for this Tiny Tina?
I'm so excited. I think it looks just absolutely brilliant. I'm just really glad that they've like gone back to this as well, because the Tiny Tina, I can't remember what it's called, but it was an expansion to Borderlands 2, which basically you're playing in a D&D game, which is being
Right.
played by the Borderlands characters, and Tiny Tina is the dungeon master. So yeah, it's such a cool idea. It's like just so open to so much like fun moments and great dialogue, as Borderlands always has. And yeah, I absolutely adore the Borderlands series, so I just can't wait for this.
Yeah, this one stands out to me a little bit more than the other Borderlands releases because it is so wacky and they have the magic elements that they can introduce really anything. The gunplay I know is always solid. It's going to be here as well. Yeah, I'm actually pretty stoked for this, and it looks funny just like Borderlands are. The writing's on point, and you can customize your own character, which is cool. Yeah, I'm excited for this.
Yeah, it's one of my probably most anticipated games, I'd probably say now. I know it was announced quite a while ago that it was happening, but I did kind of forget about it. So, seeing it, I think I saw it this morning, the trailer. I was like, yes, this is
Yep.
exactly what I need.
Nice. Awesome. So we got that revealed as well, or shown off a bit further. So we got a new Ghostwire Tokyo trailer. So this is from Tango Gameworks, new gameplay, but no release date. Originally set to release in 2021, Ghostwire was delayed to early 2022. This is back in June of this year when it was delayed. So this is probably the last game caught in the middle of the Bethesda Xbox acquisition. So we have Deathloop, which is that time PS5 exclusive. After a year, it goes back to Xbox or can release there. And then Machine Games is making Indiana Jones. That was still announced within that window of time, so that might still be on PS5. But this looks like one of the last ones that for sure is going to be cross-platform from that deal. But are you at all weary about no date? Did you like the footage shown off?
I'm not really sure, to be honest. It looked kind of Ghostwire Tokyo. I'm just making sure I'm watching the
Yeah,
right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it looks really cool. It's got that sort of like Eastern horror vibe to it. Like there's lots of these like Korean horror films like Shutter and The Grudge and all these Japanese and different sort of Asian movies, which all have these like certain. It's really hard to explain, but it's like whenever you see like an American remake of like The Grudge or these Asian horror films, they just never quite capture that like creepiness, especially in like the sort of monsters and just the sort of general theme. So I think it looks pretty scary. I'm sure it's going to be a creepy one, but I don't know. It looks a bit too weird for me, maybe like bordering on like Kojima weirdness, which I'm just it just doesn't sell it to me sort of until I know that it is good. I don't want to like get sort of really excited for something that just looks this outlandish and strange.
right. Yeah, I do like the strangeness to it. It seems really interesting and weird, and I'm kind of more interested in this than say their last one, Evil Within and Evil Within 2. So this is on my radar. It's kind of hitting everything that I want to see. I would have liked maybe some kind of just something closer as far as a date goes, but I am still interested in this because it is so freaking weird. But yeah, we got some more info on that. Ghostwire Tokyo. Switch over to the next one here. We got some news on Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. This one doesn't do it for me, but it's developed by Eidos Montreal, who made Shadow of the Tomb Raider, Deus Ex Mankind, and Human Revolution. But we got some more gameplay story trailer. Is this one on your radar at all? This one is just not hitting it for me.
So I'm not normally that big in Marvel sort of stuff, but I actually think this looks really, really good. I haven't seen this trailer, but the first trailer I saw where it showed a bit of gameplay and everything, I thought it looked really, really great. It reminds me a lot like Mass Effect, where it's trying to build the game around these relationships with the characters. Because I think that's the one thing that separates Guardians of the Galaxy from other Marvel properties, where the chemistry between those characters is just so good. Like you could just watch them forever. And yeah, I really like the way that they've made the game around, making certain decisions that are going to impact your relationships and how these missions play out. I love that kind of thing. And yeah, it does remind me a little bit like Mass Effect 2. Not saying that it's going to reach those, storytelling heights, but I really dig that kind of sort of storytelling. And I think the characters, going back to what I was saying earlier about it's really difficult to create versions of characters that are so well known in the public eye, but I actually think they all look really cool. I think they've gone for more of the original comic book style, which I think is a good way to separate them. I like that Rocket's got like a beard, I think, if I remember correctly. And
Oh
yeah, I just think it
yes.
looks. I think it looks yeah, really fun. Hopefully it will be. But yeah, I'm surprisingly excited for this one.
Yeah, I'm hoping to be, surprised that it actually is something cool. Yeah, I'm interested to see what the reviews end up giving it. But yeah, just something maybe about the writing doesn't click. The combat looks fun, so I don't, something about the writing just turns me off a little bit. But I'm excited to be surprised if it ends up being pretty dope.
Yeah, and I think the Gamora character model looks great as well. I love that her sort of like original comic design that they've sort of more based it on.
Yep.
But yeah, I think it looks like good fun. I'm not gonna. I don't think it's going to be like anything crazy, but I think out of the Marvel properties that I've seen of recent, I think this looks really really promising.
I would definitely take this over Avengers. If I'm stuck on an island
Yeah,
and I got to play something out of the two that's not Spider-Man, I will take
yeah,
this.
yeah. I think if I was stuck in an island with the Avengers game, I'd just not play anything.
Yeah, same. Alrighty, Cal, we got some Death Loop. Not news, more gameplay trailer. I was surprised to kind of see this here because it's coming out so soon. So it's releasing September 14th. I know we talked about trailers from this in the past where they show more off, but it's like we don't really understand any more of the game. But I am down for it. Like I love the gameplay looks really cool. I want to figure out the story. I don't have any more idea of what's going on, but I'm excited.
Yeah, I think it's just a good time for it to come out. I mean, I think I've spoken about it a few times where I'm just not sure what it is. So it's hard for me to get really excited for it. But Arcane are known to make really great games, and the gunplay looks great. And I think we're yet to really have a proper next gen shooter. So unless I'm forgetting something really obvious, but I just feel like it's a game that will scratch an itch for people who maybe like me who maybe don't play first person shooters that often anymore. And we're all looking for those games to play on our next gen consoles that are going to take advantage of these new things, and I think this is one that will do that.
Yeah, I forgot and assumed that this was going to be on PS4, but you're right. It's PS5 and PC only right now, which is awesome. So that they're going to really try and take full advantage of the mechanics, and they have the time stuff going on. So I feel like they're trying to do everything they can with this, with the possibility of the PS5 and PC in general, as far as mechanics go and what they can fit into this game. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, and it gives me these sort of like Hitman vibes as well, where you've got all these like really crazy ways of killing people. Like you see in that trailer, he like shoots a vending machine, and all the coins fall out, and it causes someone to like fall over,
Right.
which is quite cool. And I like that, and I think those kind of things you probably end up stumbling upon by accident when you're like in the middle of a gunfight, which will be pretty fun to see. So yeah, I'm excited to play. I don't know whether I'm going to get it just because I imagine it'll be like £70, and I've got so many games that I haven't played yet, like Ratchet and Clank and all these other things. So maybe I'll wait for it to come to Game Pass and nab it there on PC. But either way, I'll definitely play it at some point. I think it looks like a game that you just have to play if you're into games. So yeah, I'm excited to see how it does, and excited to play it eventually.
I know if you pre-order it on the PlayStation Network, they take like $5 off. So there's at least that, but not much. But
Yeah,
as far as like if you're worried about the price, yeah, you can get $5 off if you pre-order it now. But one thing I have no idea how it's going to work, but they have some kind of not multiplayer element, but some element where people are jumping into your game or affecting your game. There is something like that going on. I don't know in what capacity. Um, Let alone I don't even know what the how the story is functioning, but I know that's happening too. So I'm very very curious what that means, what that's going to be. Really, next week, I imagine we're going to see some of the reviews come out. So they're going to start talking about it.
Yeah, in fact, I think I've seen some people talking about it today on Twitter, just some like impressions for people who have obviously got it early. So yeah, I'm intrigued to see how it goes. I mean, I'm sure it'll do well. I mean, Arcane sort of tend to make brilliant stuff. So
Right.
um, yeah, I'm just looking forward to understanding what happens in the game. Because yeah, like you're saying, with people being able to jump into your sort of campaign and things, I think there's lots of ways that could be really really cool. But there's also lots of ways where I'm a bit worried where it might just be annoying. But I'm sure it's something you can turn off if it does get annoying. But yeah, I'm mostly looking forward to just understanding what the hell this game even is.
Yeah, or we play it and still don't understand it, but at least we'll have
Yeah, maybe.
fun
Yeah,
along the way.
yeah.
Nice, Callum. So we got the last bit here was something, yeah, I don't think anybody cares about this, but we got Grand Theft Auto 5 and Grand Theft Auto Online. It was shown off for the PS5 upgrade. It's delayed now to March 2022. I don't think this really deserved any time there. It was a relatively quick trailer, but in the trailer, they're still kind of trying to sell you on Grand Theft Auto with all the features and stuff that's there now, but it's more Grand Theft Auto. It's like everyone already owns this game. Yeah, we're gonna buy it again, I guess, but did you care at all about this being delayed and seeing it again?
No, I haven't cared about GTA 5 since I played it on PS3. It's just, yeah, I get people enjoy like the online aspect of it. It's just not for me. And it is getting quite ridiculous, like just how often it's being re-released. But
Like Skyrim.
people, I mean, yeah, it is like Skyrim, yeah. But people love it, and that's great. It's nice that it's receiving this much support. It obviously has a big audience. But yeah, I just really really don't care about it.
Yeah, I think the goal from Rockstar is just to repackage this thing again so people can get back on online or Grand Theft Auto Online for PS5. That's really the goal, is to just keep selling copies. Which cool, they probably could have just released the online portion on PS5 and just there you go, and people would still buy it. So yeah, it's there,
Yeah.
but it's just I guess cash grab for a studio that's already made millions and millions and millions of dollars on this game. It's cool. I think fans that want to move over to PS5 and keep playing it, there you go. But it's just I've played all I can of GTA.
Yeah, I played all like was it back in 2013?
Something
When,
like that. Yeah.
whenever it was it came out, and even then, like I remember finishing it. Like I'm actually really glad I don't have to play this game again because it was I just felt it like overstayed its welcome a bit, and I think I tried getting into the online because I know the online was released later, but I tried it on the opening weekend when everything just didn't work, and
Yeah.
I was just like, yeah, that's a shame. That's enough for me.
Yeah. I had a really rough start. I remember being there that same weekend, and but it's grown, exponentially since then,
Yeah,
and people love it.
yeah.
All right, Con. We got one last news story here. Oh, I was going to ask you overall thoughts on the showcase and how do you feel about the next few years for PlayStation?
Yeah, it's exciting, always to see just new announcements. I mean, I always find it hard to tell whether it was a good or a bad show, like for everything. Same with E3. After every press conference that happens, people are like, "Oh, what did you think?" But for me, I just like seeing new trailers that have never been seen before. I just it's always exciting, I think. And yeah, we've had some big games announced, things that we didn't even know existed. We got some gameplay to massive games like God of War, and nice to see a new Borderlands game. And yeah, I think it was yeah, I really enjoyed what came out of it. And yeah, I don't really have any problems with it. I don't, I'd like to, obviously, as always, I want to see Resistance
Right.
at some point, but I can't like use that as as a way to sort of be negative about it because we saw some really cool stuff. So yeah, I think it was great. I think the future looks good. I imagine there's more things that will be coming out. Like, for example, like Spider-Man, obviously coming out in 2023. I'm sure there'll be more things that will be announced and come out between that time. So I think we're just getting started as well.
Yeah, it's I agree completely, and also there's a lot of studios we didn't hear from. Ben's working on a new property. You have that new San Diego studio that's supposedly making in the next Uncharted. You have a lot of studios we just didn't see stuff from, so it's still a lot that could potentially come out or at least be announced. We have the Game Awards coming out at the end of the year. I know there's a Tokyo Game Show at the end of September as well. So there's still a lot of stuff that could be announced, but it kind of starts to set up these next few years really well and give people who don't already have a PS5 a reason to buy one. But of course, everyone's trying to buy one. We just want to get our hands on PS5. But yeah,
Sure.
it's
Yeah,
shaping up to be pretty good.
and they announced this show, quite with like not very much notice, and they tend to do that a lot, where it's just like, look, we're going to be live in a few days.
Right.
So you never know, there could be like 2 or 3 more by the end of the year, with packed with just as much announcements. So yeah, it's a great start. I think we're really starting to get a better understanding of what's coming, and when to expect it, and what it's looking like as well with games like God of War, because it's been really difficult to imagine what the new God of War is going to look like, and now we finally got to look at it. So yeah, it's exciting all around, and yeah, I can't wait to hear more and more about those games and whatever we haven't seen yet too.
I agree. Can't wait. It's finally we're getting to some really dope PS5, PS4 games here coming up. So cannot wait. All right, Callum. Our last, or just the final story here we have is just a little bit about PlayStation. PlayStation buys its third studio this year alone. This is from Taylor Lyles of IGN. Sony has acquired UK developer Firesprite, marking the third studio acquisition from Sony this year alone. As noted on the PlayStation blog, Firesprite has worked closely with Sony, creating several titles together. Most notably, the developer helped to create the Playroom and Playroom VR. Firesprite is also the developer behind The Persistence, a horror shooter originally released on PS4 as a PSVR title. This marks the third studio interactive, or no, the third studio Sony Interactive Entertainment has purchased in 2021. In June, Sony acquired Housemarque, the Finnish developer that released the PS5 exclusive Returnal. In July, Sony announced that it had acquired Nixxes, the Dutch studio that specializes in porting PC or games to PC. Firesprite becomes the 14th studio in a wider PlayStation Studios stable. Yeah, this is a pretty big news as far as just another acquisition for Sony. I know there was some heat with that Bethesda acquisition of a year ago. Everyone was kind of clapping back, saying, "Okay, well, what's PlayStation going to acquire? What do they had need to kind of build up their studios, even though they have a ton." But we have 3 now this year.
Yeah, I think it's I think you can sort of tell how things are going with the kind of studios I think Sony are looking to acquire. It seems like they're trying to get sort of studios that they can then build something from. I think it's really important to have new studios so that we can have new talent, have new people sort of get noticed and everything. And I think that's what it seems like is the sort of plan with some of these studios. Obviously, Insomniac was a big name buy, but I think it's nice to see these smaller guys getting these the funded by Sony, which gives them so much opportunity to work on amazing things. So it'll be exciting a few years down the line to see how that sort of transpires, and also I'm sure there'll be more acquisitions sort of as time goes on as well.
Yeah, it's they're stacking up, even though they already had quite a few studios under the Sony belts, but now this is another one, and that helps them, really diversify and just keep spreading out. I'm interested more or mainly in that Nix's acquisition with them tackling porting Sony games to PC. I want to see more of that this year, where they now have a studio dedicated to that, to just pump out properties on PC. Done really well, hopefully, but I'm excited for that part too. But yeah, that's going down. I did have a little blurb here, more info about Firesprite's projects. The AAA adventure game, that's one they're working on, described as an ambitious, dark narrative blockbuster. The studio's been on a hiring spree, adding talent from Naughty Dog, Rockstar, Ubisoft, Rocksteady, and more. So they are working on a AAA level adventure game. So I think if it's third person, then it's definitely under the Sony wheelhouse of AAA adventure games.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think that they're showing any signs of stopping making those kinds of games, which I know that they get a hard time about. But at the end of the day, all of these games, even if they are a similar genre, they're always excellent. So I'm more than happy with more and more of those.
Yeah, I'm excited. And you know what? It also shows with Sony, we did get a lot of, and maybe the more attention they got from this showcase recently was the next iteration on a well known property, say with Spider Man, with God of War. But they do have to start kind of building these new titles and new IPs. I think that's what they should focus on, what they are focusing on into this PS5 generation, with starting to flesh out just new properties and kind of create more under the Sony belt, and not just keep pumping out, the next Uncharted, the next Last of Us. So something that is new, that is just like the success they had with Returnal. I think they're going to focus on newer properties.
Yeah, and I think it's always a good plan. It's always exciting when you get a new property that you've never seen, like Forspoken, for example, where we just don't know anything about it, and it sort of just makes it more exciting when it's sort of the unknown. What's it about? How's it going to play? And everything. So yeah, the more new IPs, the better. As much as I love sequels and remasters and things, it's also nice to balance it with new stuff too.
Yep,
Otherwise, there'll
I
be nothing
agree.
to remaster in a decade.
That's true. They need to think, okay, we just need to remaster the new stuff.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. So in 10, 15 years' time, we'll then have remasters of Forspoken and,
Yeah,
and all that thing.
exactly. The money's in the remasters. That's where it is.
Yeah.
Alrighty, Con. We'll end it there for the week. Finally got to get together. It's been awesome. Where can they find you online?
I'm on Twitter at Bear Monroe if you want to follow me and see all my boring tweets about football
And Lord of the Rings.
and Lord of the Rings. Yeah.
And you queue up the show as well on Twitter at PlasticArtPod. That's it for us this week. We'll see you guys hopefully next week again. See you later.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, let's go.